Okay, welcome back, beautiful people. We're in the house for another episode of the Ecosystem Show. We're excited to be here. We're back into the rhythm for season 2. It's the three of us today. Will is once again gallivanting around the world like Will does. If you follow his Instagram feed, you will find it is just full of massive parties. And when I say parties, I'm talking about, Coachella level parties, like full on. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he stays awake, but he's in the prime of his youth, so it's kind of understandable. And then our dear friend Andrew is in Bangkok. Now, as far as I know, he's not staying at the Bangkok Hilton. Probably not the best place to stay in Bangkok, but he's there all the same, working. With that, Mr. Huntingford, what's on the agenda today? What's on the run sheet?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. And actually, Anna prompted this because Anna and I, after the last show, Mark, you brought up the chaos engineering discussion. Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, I was like blown away. I thought it was the coolest term I've ever heard. And then Anna we had shared some stuff around like black hat hacking on Copilot and other things. I've had this thing in my head around like when building out AI solutions, like what is okay? Because there's just no end to what can happen. This is Anna and I going back to like Microsoft days type stuff.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a bit obsessed, and we started researching, and I fell in love, deeply in love, but I am married, so I'm not gonna pursue it. With this guy who does a lot of chaos engineering on AI, and he has like the best talks and demonstrations. And I showed them to Chris, and then Chris, since he only needs like 3 hours of sleep, he ran with it, really ran with it.
So for those of you, just if you're listening to audio of this, we do this as a video as well. So therefore, Chris is going to share some stuff on screen. So head over to YouTube if you want to check that out on my channel, the NZ365 Guy channel. Chris, the floor's yours.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so I've had this in my mind for a while, and I think it took that chaos engineering discussion to kind of start getting me to author this properly. And I have authored it before internally, but I'm going to read it to you real quick. So I said, I keep hearing that organizations want to build AI-infused container apps and custom LLMs/copilots or whatever. Okay. Now, I use the terminology container apps on purpose here because those are effectively custom solutions that are built in Azure inside like Kubernetes structures and things like that. Okay. So I said, that's all awesome. And I love the creativity, but I've been thinking about the non-deterministic nature of GPTs versus the deterministic nature of automation as we understand it. This is going to be hard to govern and manage. Some loosely formulated thoughts as to why. Okay. I've also been reading about the EU AI Act. The link we'll provide obviously in the show notes. Okay. So and I'm using the word app extremely loosely because people call them apps. It's more than that. It's like the undercarriage, the interaction layer. So just whenever I say the word app in this scenario, because I hate the term, I'm just using it because people know what it is. Okay. And you can also apply this to Power Platform solutions, Microsoft Dynamics. So think about the wider stack. So if your app that you make is infused with GPT AI functionality, this drives non-deterministic results. That's what GPTs do to an extent. If they accept the prompt that is grounded with data and then security that guides the output. Okay, so just the example there to break it down is that if I go into a GPT and I say, show me a packet of red tomatoes, and there is no data in that LLM that talks about red tomatoes, okay, that it's been trained on, it's not going to work, right? And I've actually got evidence of this in another website. But so how do you prove transparency? Because the EU AI legislation requires transparency. So if you build something, you have to be transparent about how you've red teamed it. So how do you provide transparency? What form of chaos engineering has been trialed? Has the solution been correctly red teamed? Red teamed is terminology that comes from the old hacking days where what banks used to do is hire people and they used to ethically hack banks to find out vulnerabilities. Okay. So it's easy to prove transparency in a deterministic model like automation or process because the solution has been built with preferred outputs. You know what to test for. So think about buying something from Amazon. You go and buy something. They know the pathway you're going to take. They know your user journey. Okay. So if I make a Copilot and put it on someone's website, and that generative AI, so imagine this thing is grounded in whatever data, gives me incorrect information and guidance because it isn't grounded in great data, or the prompt isn't well thought out, who is liable? So if I go into a website and say, hey, I'm going to go and teach me how to steal a car, and like, I don't know, Bob the Cabbage Man's website has got an LLM, sorry, has got a Copilot on it, and it gives me the info, who is liable for that? Okay. Like the Air Canada thing, they had to refund a
Yeah.
bunch of flights.
Yeah.
I would have gone straight back to the consultant and given them a hard time. Okay. So here's the thing. Now, if I think about agentification and the combination of agents calling agents within a closed ecosystem, what if one of the agents isn't grounded correctly and hallucinates? Which is a user problem, by the way. This happens with users every day. What happens to the linked agents? I know this is a broken telephone conundrum in real life, but the proliferation of bad data could be pretty intense in this scenario. I'm starting to see the real need for a deployment safety board, a DSB, and well thought out AI governance boards in all partners and customers. I think we need to be better at responsible AI. Okay. So like I posted that after Anna and I went on our tirade about,
Yep.
black hat hacking and ethical hacking and things. And the comments are insane. Like people are really getting into this, man. And obviously, one of the greatest comments is from Yuka, but I'll leave that for people to read.
Yuka absolutely gave you the greatest comment, and it was so realistic, and it was so a thing that we may deal with very soon.
I don't know. I was going to bring up Yuka because he's done a couple of posts over the last month
Yeah.
around, like, he's really cranked into Copilot and the risk profile that it raises. And so it's interesting because I saw your post, I read the actual post, but I haven't got into the thread, right, of every people's inputs below, which is epic. I'm glad he's jumped on because I don't know if you've noticed about Yuka, but since he handed in his MVP-dom,
Yeah.
He's got gloves off, man. He's got gloves off.
Man.
He's just calling shit the way shit is. And I'm loving it. I'm here for it.
He's also like incredibly intelligent and very thorough. And I'm sure this doesn't happen to everybody, but I do need to read his post 2 or 3 times to really understand what's going on. Like it's incredible.
I do too. There's another person who I really need you all to look out for, and that's a friend of mine from South Africa, Alistair Pugan. Okay. So L's an absolute ledge, right? And he's also a straight shooter. But one of the things he called out long ago, before all of this hit the fan, was around grounding and good data, right? And what's interesting is he's put 4 points here. He says, bro, you're on the money. We're seeing with customers today. Number one, how reliable is the data you get back? So if you think about like a Copilot, just M365 Copilot in your ecosystem, and you have data exfiltration, what that means is that, Anna, I'm going to email you a document. Okay. I'm not going to share a document. I'm going to email you, copy the document, and you make changes. Okay. That is data exfiltration. It's bad. It's really bad. And if this happens in legal firms and things, the second thing is that grounding from RAG, how accurate is it? So retrieval augmented generation, like what is the data coming back and how accurate is that data? Because if you have got bad data exfiltration, that RAG is going to be grossly incorrect. Those are responses from RAG. Guardrails for data security, that's obvious. And then continuous improvement. And do you know who else called this out? Was Ioana. So Ioana Tanasa is doing, I'm saying her name horribly wrong, I guess, but
you're doing good.
She puts up with me. But she called out the concept of continuous improvement for RAI standards. And what that means is that if you release a system into an open or closed ecosystem, the concept of observability needs to happen in the background in order for you to know what's going on. And then you need to continuously improve and edit the model.
But observability, not monitoring, 2 very different things.
Correct. Yes, because observability is very different. Observability requires interaction where monitoring may not. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anna.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really interesting, right? And what this is turning into is a thing called AI ops, right? Then I noticed if you go to the Microsoft certification website, this is wild. And my friend David Graham pointed this out to me. He's like, dude, AI ops is actually in the AI app specialization. I'll tell you the name now, if you give me 1 second. So AI ops is in your digital app innovation, and they call it the AZ400, a DevOps engineer support, but that's being angled more onto that. So I'm seeing a shift in like how this is being classified. So anyway, that all being aside, like this whole RAI thing, this whole deployment safety board, which I call now a digital safety board because I believe it's wider
I
than
love it.
just deployments,
Yep.
yeah, is going to be huge. And I feel like if you are a partner and if you are a customer, you should absolutely be looking at setting up AI standards in your business
Yep.
like today, because
Mhm.
the European AI Act went live on the 1st of August or the 4th of August. I can't remember.
I would be curious to see how many audit firms or little consultancies were born on August 1st when this regulation came out.
Yep,
Because
I
surely
will
some
too.
people knew about it. Surely there is somebody
Oh,
out
absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
Because, okay, fine. The EU said this is the rule. What actually tells us that the EU knows how to check?
But that's it. And can I tell you, I don't believe that consultancies like risk consultancies will actually go live with something that
Huh.
says you're right or wrong. And I'll tell you why, about liability once again. Because if you go into a company and you do an audit on their RISE standards and they get fined that 35,000 euros or 7.5% of their revenue, then you are the one that is held liable because you did the audit, right? So, well, let me rephrase that. If they get found out and you've done an audit and says they're okay. Sorry, I should have said that in the beginning. Apologies.
Right. And you didn't. Yeah.
I mean, it's true, but when you come out with an audit, you actually follow a set of rules, and you're saying these are the set of rules that I'm going to follow. If
Mhm.
you, regulator, in the meantime decide to amend your rules, which you may well do, then I will change my product as well. So I do believe actually that there will be audit companies
Yeah,
ready
yeah.
to do this. And I also believe, and I thought about this week in light of chaos engineering and all of the things that are good and less good that could come out of artificial intelligence, the fact that we have a brand new wave of what we used to call citizen developers.
Yes,
Hear me out.
you're right. Yeah,
I'm not saying citizen developers
no.
necessarily do not no,
Mark just got mad.
no use for heart attacks, but I'll give you an example. I've got a friend. She is pro dev, went to university with me. She worked in like Greek projects. She knows how to do full stack development and DevOps in Azure. Yeah, so like fully fledged. And right now she's saying, do you know what? This is like such hard work to keep, up to date with my skills and everything. And also I feel like I would like to see the bigger picture. I think that going into Power Platform would allow me to do this with my background. Show me some stuff. And then I was like, okay, what do I show this person? Because I will not insult her with app in a day. Like it's just not happening,
Yeah. Yeah.
like what do I do? So after
Mhm.
our conversation, I go into, wait a second, the whole AI tracks may be useful for you. And all of a sudden, I find like 17 learning paths on Microsoft Learn on what is AI, on grounding, on RAG patterns, on prompt engineering, on et cetera, et cetera. Do you not think that the way we have regulation for GDPR, let's just say, because that's the biggest out of the EU, we would have something similar and the learning path for what you're talking about, Chris?
So this is interesting
Yeah.
because I thought I thought, I was saying before we jumped on air that I had a very sleepless night, and I was thinking about the session coming up today. And one of my questions to both of you were, since January this year to this point, what are you learning? Because we're on this a massive accelerated track, I feel, with AI. And then you bring up that there's these learning paths that are there. So, Anna, maybe you can just flick us, and we'll get that in the show notes for this episode. The actual, here's the path. So people, if you're on Spotify or whatever, you can go click and follow these paths and get your training game on. But my question to both of you is, what are you specifically learning yourself? And I'm not talking about learning for customers or learning for consulting, but what are you doing yourselves to stay to kind of, I feel like, keep your head above water in a way with so much that is coming? 6 months ago, I said to folks in the community, 5 prompts a day. You should be doing minimum of 5. I think I'm over 100 odd prompts a day nowadays. My prompts are sometimes multiple page prompts. I'm talking about full landscape A4 length prompts. They're like detailed as, and I'm creating this whole library because I never why would you have a prompt library? Well, really what I'm doing is, I'm creating RAG patterns, right? I'm injecting a whole bunch of data as into the context window as a starting point for whatever I'm doing. So what are you guys doing? How are you, and how do you find what you're going to learn on in this AI world?
I'm going to start because Chris will have like a whole plethora of things. I definitely am not doing enough. And I recognize that in myself. That's because I have a very busy job, and everybody, I think, would empathize with me, and it's really, really easy to blame it on the job. And we travel a lot, and often I'm home alone with my toddler. But overall, I feel really, really tired, very tired. After 7 p.m., I feel like I cannot function anymore. So these are the things that I have to fight every day until I figure out what the hell's wrong with me. But in between, the only thing that I feel like I can do to help my brain, who needs to understand what's going on, is go to the essence. If you've noticed, I've always been talking about data. What can we do with data? Why is data important? So I'm reading all these books that are more or less connected to AI to understand how other people think and how information that's out there may or may not influence, AI results. And other than that, my 5 to 10 to 20 prompts a day, of course, that's a minimum. And learning a little bit about, uh, how grounding works and how the whole thing works. That's the only thing that I do so far. But I do feel like a lot of information is out there right now that wasn't there like 3 months ago even.
Yeah.
Like the very thing that we've warned everybody was going to happen has happened. These waves are just like crashing onto the shore every day. And I think it's going to get a lot easier for me to pick up more information.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Chris lives and breathes AI, uses AI more than electricity.
I don't think so. Because I am really crummy at reading articles and things. Like I just suck at it. Like I have to be really, 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 really into it to actually read a full-on article. But so I've just found that
you need Speechify.
Yeah, I do. I actually have it. Yeah. I have been randomly directed into a lot of content, but actually it's more down the roots of curiosity. And I talk to a lot of people daily. And when I say a lot, I really do mean a lot of people that understand AI quite well. So today I was having a chat with a colleague called David Graham, and he was walking me through containerization and how that works and how the Kubernetes structures work underneath and how you can get these little containers to talk to one another. And actually, they've been doing agentification in cloud and Azure world for a lot longer than we have in Copilot, right? So it's cool to learn. It's cool to learn like that. And what I've learned is that actually, the more I have these conversations like these, the more it forces me down the route to go and learning. So people like Ioana, Donna, Dave, you guys, there's a big crowd of folks who I literally talk to every day, and they just hey, read that article, and then I do, and it sends me down this spiral of random learning. So it's never planned. But I do plan to actually go and do one of the Azure courses that's available. So if you look at I think it's the AZ204, the Developer Associates. I haven't written code in a long time, but actually I'm so interested in how you would infuse AI into the apps, because what I figured out about myself is once I know the tech, then I can disseminate that against real world and then build governance around it. I can't do governance without understanding the depth, and then that forces me into a learning pattern. That's a really
Nice.
confusing answer, but like it's the only way I can explain it.
Sure. There's also an event that I have just signed on for, and I wish they would tell me the name of the event again.
Just while Anna's looking for that event, I'm going to give you something that
Cool.
you are going to thank me for.
Oh, goody.
Napkin, as in you like napkin at a restaurant, to wipe up, napkin.ai. Thank me later.
Okay.
That shit is going to change the game for you, particularly in your presentations.
Oh.
That's something that I need in my life.
It's an AI that diagrams out whatever you've written. And the diagrams are next level epic, man. They are epic. So like I take a blog post I write, I give it it doesn't take the whole post. You go, this paragraph, give me an illustration, and it designs on the fly an illustration using AI for that paragraph.
Jesus.
And of course, you know how visual, I just did a thing. What did I want to do? I wanted to, the difference between hackathons and innovation challenges. And so it did this diagram, hackathons versus innovate, and it just encapsulated it. It is an epic diagramming tool that will take whatever input you give it, and particularly if you've written a paragraph or two, and create a really intelligent diagram for it.
Amazing.
It is epic. It's not like, 5-finger type, human drawing, that type of mid-journey experience. This is designed specifically, and it builds awesome diagrams.
Amazing.
I will take payments later.
I'm on it already. I'm on it already.
It's free. It's 100% free. There's no, it's in beta.
Free.
So it's 100% free. It's freaking epic, man.
Yeah, see all of these tools. There's just so much, and I so admire people who can just go on all of these tools and imagine or like just work with what they've got. I need to understand what's going on. So for that respect, you're gonna laugh. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a half-day workshop, one of those Microsoft workshops, and it's called Build and Extend AI-powered Copilots with Copilot Studio. And I want to do that, because I want to see how they do it.
Yeah, you should.
And I want to, because normally the way, because I've written and presented some of these courses as well, and Chris has also, and they guide you down paths that you wouldn't normally go into, and you feel like, why are you making me present this in this way? And it's because of the pipeline normally. It's because, they know what's coming.
Yeah.
So you should learn it in this manner, and it's so useful. So I recommend it, and I'm gonna share a link as well.
Yeah, share the link. That is epic. You know what? I was talking to somebody this week in the product team, and I think Microsoft have got over 100 co-pilots now, and they've got this concept of Copilot in, or Copilot on, right? Which is, and it goes back to the build versus buy story. Do you want to just take a Copilot off the shelf? You're looking at Copilot for service or Copilot for sales or something like that, right? And then you go into this. You're loving that, aren't you, Chris?
My dude, this is
Damn,
so
I
good.
knew that I was going to bring
this
the good.
This is so good.
Anyhow, and so, but what I hear is that the gold is Copilot Studio. That's if you just could only invest in either Copilot Studio, or any of the pre-built or Azure AI Studio, invest your time in Copilot Studio. That's where the goods are at, and that's where I think you'll get the biggest bang for buck. That's my take on things right now.
But dude, this is exactly what I was saying to, I won't mention companies' names, but I'm like, look after your low-code people because they are AI extensibility people now. And they're like, oh, no, it's cool. We'll just let them all get fired and go somewhere else or, do their own thing. It is, in my opinion, it is the dumbest move to release good low-code Power Platform people from your business right now. If you do, okay, let me tell you something else. Technical Power Platform people, so not functional people who make Canvas apps. I'm talking like actual technical people who understand layers of the Azure stack, who can talk the M365 story, who can understand a bit more about how things work.
Good functionals will know that, man. Good functionals will know that.
Yeah, well, no. The quality of a functional consultant has deteriorated based on the fact that citizen devs have kind of arrived, and there's a whole story to be had.
I think that's why I have an allergic reaction every time I hear the word citizen dev.
Yeah.
I think a citizen dev is an Excel user. It's not I'm building an app for the organization user. It's the Excel. I just needed to do a calculation. That's your citizen dev. I think we've bought them too much across the line into, you can build a business app. No, you can't. You're probably not going to. That's not a citizen dev. And I think a lot of people that call themselves citizen devs aren't. Right? They're much more around the functional analyst type person than a citizen dev.
But I feel like many people believe just that. I think including Chris, and Chris, please correct me if I'm wrong, if I misunderstood one of your sessions. Chris goes in and talks about governance, and it's a really, really cool presentation, very entertaining, of course. But he talks about how we do not ask IT to look after our Excel. Why do we ask IT to look after our Power Apps or our Power Platform?
100%. Beautiful analogy. Beautiful.
There we go. Maybe that's where we are heading. Exactly, exactly like you're saying.
You read into it perfectly.
Back on track. What were you going to say?
I don't remember. I've now gotten this tool in my hand. Dude, this is so freaking cool.
Napkin.ai, man. It is the goodies, man. Huh?
Like, honestly, last time we talked about chaos engineering, and now, like, these can only be surfaced at the end of a show, because otherwise we've lost Chris. He's like,
dude, it's so cool though. It's so cool.
It's mega, right? I tell you what,
it's
I just
just
find I'm
so
in this
cool.
massive consumption phase at the moment, just consuming so much, trying so much. Like, I'm like, you know what? I realize I'm not getting good at prompting around image generation. And you see some people, what they're creating from images, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Bro.
But once again, it comes back to...
Really? I think they're all bad.
Oh, no. There's some stuff that you cannot tell whether it's real human person or not. They're so... And this is it. It all comes down to the prompt. If you're a shitty prompter, you're going to get a shitty image, and it's going to look like an AI image. If you're a good prompter, you're like, where did you photograph that? It's just
Please, can I show you my creation?
Yeah.
Please, can I show you my creation?
Please do.
It's just so cool. I'm not going to show you the text, but I'm going to show you...
No, good.
I mean, this is so cool.
This is Napkin, right? You've just done this on Napkin since I said it.
It's literally next level. So this, I've run through
Isn't that
discussion.
Epic, bro? Isn't
bro,
it?
Look at how cool that shit is.
Oh my God.
But the thing is, so you run a thing called a flash, right? And then the flash scans through, and then you get these options, and then you can kind of like dick about with the options. So
you can go right in and change out any of those icons in there inside what you just did then. But isn't it an epic tool, right? Isn't it such an epic tool?
Bro, it's actually wild.
Okay, so then Jesus.
There we go.
So
There's
then
one.
what do you do?
You just hit the little flash button.
Yeah, and it scans your text, and then it goes, here's a bunch of ways that we could visualize it. So it gives you about 15 different ways of visualizing it. Here they are on the left-hand side, And then once you've selected how you want to visualize it, then you can select how you want to theme it.
It's so cool.
And then you ultimately can go down and change any of the elements then after it's produced.
Yeah.
So up the top there's a little purple button that allows you to download it as an SVG, a PDF, or a PNG.
Got it.
I'm going to use my one F word for this podcast. This is cool as fuck. Like,
isn't it?
Really, this is. Damn. This is so cool.
Honestly.
Oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I literally don't know what I was talking about. You shouldn't have given me the shiny thing.
We were talking about agents and about how they could, and I know we're not gonna go through like Yuka's post or like whatever, but his comment talks about how, because in going back to Chris's post, he's saying that once you have like 2 or more agents that you cannot really control, means that it's really hard to visualize or to observe rather than monitor. what they're doing. So when they're getting biased information, aggressive information, wrong information in general,
Yeah, you don't know.
you don't know because they're gonna act, they're gonna be able to make decisions. And then
Yeah.
Yuga comes and says, Chris, you do not even need two or more agents. In fact, if somebody asks just normal Copilot a question and that Copilot hasn't been prompted correctly or has responded in a way that it shouldn't have, or is just like wrong information, but this person has copy pasted it into like a document and then saved it on SharePoint,
Yeah.
that's then human content.
Yes.
So
But that's what I
therefore
was
the
talking about. Yeah.
agent can grow up to be whatever they want to be. And now take that times 15 competent individuals in your organization. And if your organization has like 1,000, for sure you have 50 people who are not going to
Mm.
check the response of Copilot. And they are going to insert this information in either Excel spreadsheets or documents. And then you have a Copilot agent writing a whole different story.
And this is the point I was
Amazing.
getting across in the
Yeah.
beginning. Is like, it's not like the human error is security by obscurity, right? So like you don't
Yeah.
have that break. You might, but
Sure.
like this is why shit like insider risk management exists in tools like Purview, because the concept of data exfiltration is not just about like, oh, the insider's turned red and been bad. It's actually
No.
like people just make dumb mistakes because they don't know.
You accidentally send an attachment to an email address because that was
Yeah.
one that auto completed, and you go send, and oh fuck, that's not who I meant it for, and it's got confidential data in it, right?
Yeah.
Purview prevents that stuff from happening
If you configure it right.
if it's been classified as not being allowed outside your firewall or your domain structure or
Yeah.
something like that.
This is the scary part, right? Because what happens there is it is proliferated through the automation layer in the agentic frameworks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like people, so Yuka's version is right, but like I took it to the next layer. So Yuka is exactly right in saying Copilot will surface the information way quicker, but the human will never know. The agent will then never know. And then you've got automation wrapped up in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And then like you've got agents turn bad. And like, I personally, so I drew a very, very, can I show you? This is hilarious. Actually, I'm going to share a screen. I'm going to share half a screen. I've been talking about this. I called Mark and Andrew from a certain place in Seattle, and I was like, dude, this is important. So when you have a group of agents, this is what I was talking about. It's called Agents Armageddon. So if these were people, this would take a lot longer.
Yeah.
Okay, but because they aren't necessarily people, the proliferation of data is way, 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 way more chaotic, right? And then you effectively infect other agents. So what are we doing about governance?
Yeah.
Is my question.
Like the speed of the stuff changes everything. I don't know. Did any of you see the Eric Schmidt video that got taken down this week where he was speaking, I think at Harvard or something like that? I can't remember the university.
No.
So Eric Schmidt, was the guy that probably made Google as big as what Google became, is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he took over from Larry and Sergey Brin and really made it the mega company it was. And in that, he said, that agents is going to be such a big deal that you could go, you know what, they're going to shut down TikTok. He used this as an example. And you could say, listen, reproduce me TikTok. Not with all the data, but the actual app that does that.
Yeah.
And because the ability of multiple agents working together to kind of like, once you test a QA, that type of thing, it's going to fire back and say, hey, I don't like this. You need to rewrite this. But now that's happening almost at the speed of light, that kind of interaction that they can correct each other. And therefore, you're looking at potentially years of iterations happening in hours.
Yes, right? Exactly. And this is the thing that I was trying. Do you remember when I phoned you from Seattle when I was at Microsoft? And I was like, this is the shit that's going to change everything.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what I mean. I don't think people quite grasp the fact that, I'm going to reverse it to say that whole like containerization of applications and things like that on custom LLMs, That is just one thing. But now democratizing it into a layer, like Anna put on it's not a sit dev layer, but democratizing it into a layer where everyone can do this shit now, that changes it, because at least when you're doing this inside the Azure framework and you've got somebody that is technical, they know the digital boundaries about where not to do things, right? But when you're putting this in a layer where like somebody who doesn't have tech experience or doesn't have governance experience can use Copilot Studio that easily, do agents chaining that easily, and start building out these things, and you have no governance, this is different. This is so different.
Yeah.
I think that another phenomenon that we'll see is a set of organizations who are still on-prem. There is such thing still. They're now gonna say, no, man, we're just gonna buy a bunch of servers. We're never putting our data in the cloud.
Yeah, this is why I think on-prem cloud will make a comeback.
I think that's when on-prem cloud will make a comeback.
On-prem cloud will make a comeback. I do think that people are going to shit themselves, try and ring fence their data from those layers of updates.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised, but at the same time, this is good. I don't know where this is going to teeter. And I've really thought about this. Anna, I'm so glad you brought it up, because I've really, really thought about this. Like, is AI the era that sends everyone back to on-prem cloud, or puts everyone in the cloud for sure because they want to, be better than everyone else? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that, where Apple is going with their on-device, being able to execute LLM on device.
SLMs,
and the latest Surface from Microsoft is really getting that way. And I mean, we're in V1, right? But you'd think where that's going to be in probably 2 years, it's going to be mount your face type capabilities, where that will all be on device rather than in cloud. I think there'll always be an extension to the cloud, but yeah, it's hard to say, right? People are going to get super worried about their data. One of the other things is that I think I heard in that Eric video, people are worried about licensing, like when works of art and stuff are being used and how are they being compensated. And great model. Why don't we apply the the Spotify model or the Netflix model to anything that you've created, personal works, anything that you've created, whether it's, and if an LLM uses it, it needs to compensate you for the creation. Like if that's a bit of training data that, with blockchain, it wouldn't be hard to kind of key everything that was created by, living, breathing intelligence, as in that has blood in their veins, that you could get compensated for your great content, right? And it would show, which I think is lineage, right? That whole where was its birthplace? What did it come with? What was in its DNA at its starting point? Can we trace it? And blockchain has the ability to track lineage.
That is true. I had not thought of that in the least.
Yeah. I thought the same. There was a great documentary about Apple and how most of their, before iPhone, after iPhones as well, most of their revenue didn't actually come from devices. It came from music.
It did, yeah.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
With that, we're at time. We will leave it with, I look forward to doing these podcasts every time, because I feel like I learn so much. And
me too.
The speed of change is just phenomenal. It's exciting. If you're listening or watching, tell us what you want us to, to drill into, and if you can add, tools to the mix like napkin.ai, if you've discovered something, share the love, people. We want to hear about it. We want to see how epic it is. And if you've created something, even better. But with that, it's goodbye from me. Anna?
Bye. Your turn, Chris. Say goodbye.
Bye. Sorry, I was reading something. The thing is, this napkin thing has killed me. You do this to me every time. It's like a wormhole.